Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do my monthly reading wrap up for June 2022. June was a really good reading month. I read 9 books in total by just 2 authors in 2 genres. And I will first start talking about the one book by the individual author and then the other 8 are by just one author. And that one book is They Never Learn by Layne, Fargo. This was a rather unusual choice and unusual reason for me to read it, because this was related to a friend of mine, Sarah's book club. It was the pick for this time, and honestly I was unsure about whether I would like this, and indeed I was a little bit unsure for a while whether I would actually pick up and try it, because this is a thriller book with the main point of view character being a serial killer. So I was a bit like, is this going to be my thing? I doubted it, honestly. But I'm very glad that I read it because I actually really enjoyed it. Essentially, there are 2 main point of view characters. It is set in the ground of this very, well-to-do university in America. The one character is a student at the university called Carly. The other is an English professor called Scarlett, and the student, Carly, she is quite socially awkward and doesn't really fit in due to her hobbies. I mean, that's me basically, and starts having a few issues in certain respects. The English teacher happens to be, not in school hours, however, a serial killer. Basically, she punishes and, frankly, kills people that are essentially getting away with crime, because this is on a university campus. They tend to try to push certain things aside and try to make sure the students don't say too much about certain things, which is disturbing because this rightly happens, as you hear about it in the news and things, when people are taking over people for court, this sort of thing. So that happens, and it's quite dark because of it. The characters are written really well. The plot line is great. You are very curious, at least I was, how the 2 characters and indeed other characters would sort of interact and their plot lines would weave together into something more. And that's done in an interesting way. And overall, I really enjoyed this book. It's well written, good plot line, good characters, and I would recommend it actually. I was more impressed than I guessed I would be. The second book that I read in June was Mrs. Bradshaw's Handbook by Terry Pratchett. And yes, get used to me saying Terry Pratchett because there ain't any other author. So this is basically, it's not one of the Discworld books, it's an offshoot book from the Discworld, where in the second from last Discworld book, which is called Rising Steam, which is about basically the railway being invented and brought to the Discworld. This is basically a sarcastic take on Bradshaw's Guide, which was a book made years ago in the UK and still got a certain reputation now. This is Mrs. Bradshaw's version. Terry Pratchett being sarcastic about it. It's still done with humour, it's still fun and enjoyable. You won't, I wouldn't recommend it if you haven't read at least one of the Discworld novel, just to get the idea of the humour, but it does stand alone to a large degree, because it's basically a well-to-do woman who's been employed by a railway to essentially travel around and see what their services are like, and write a book on them. And this is a guide book. So this is a odd little book, but fun, and I really enjoyed it. The third book that I read was, Terry Pratchett again, The Shepherd's Crown. This time, this is the last Discworld book he ever wrote. He actually died, sadly, before he actually finished writing this, and I've already done a review of this, which will be up in the next few months. Suffice to say, although you can tell that he didn't fully finish this, there's little details that he blatantly had wrote them in pretty crudely and then sort of gone over them a bit, but not fully. That happens quite a few times, but you can forgive it, and frankly it's still got the plot line, it's still got the intelligence and the humour. It's just lighter than normal in certain respects, which is still good and still strong, because frankly it is Terry Pratchett. I'll say more in an individual wrap up, but this is a strong book to end on, and it finishes the overall Discord in a very interesting way, I would say, overall. So I really did enjoy that novel. The next book is actually 3 books, and that is the Bromeliad Trilogy by Pratchett, or the Gnome Trilogy as it is always known, made up of Truckers, Diggers and Wings. These are 3 children's fantasy novels. He wrote them in the late 80s and 1990. I have done an individual review on these, which will be coming up over the next month or two. Suffice to say, they are about a little race of gnomes, which are really, really small, that live, this particular group, in the walls and floors of an department store in the UK. They get the news, however, that the department store, which is basically their entire world, is going to be demolished. So this is a disaster, and, well, you can guess what might happen by the fact it's called Truckers. Truck. You know, it's not difficult to figure out. And the other 2 aren't that difficult either. The simple in premise, simply read, but they do have the meaning. They have got the humour of Pratchett, and they just like, to me, a lighter version of Discworld and a lighter version of some of his ideas. And I would recommend these if you like Pratchett and you want something that's still Pratchett but maybe, you know, extra on top of it, which is well worth it in my opinion. The next book that I read was, oh yes, The Carpet People by Pratchett again. This was written by both Pratchett when he was very, very young, when he was in his very early 20s, and then more than a decade later, or 2 decades later I believe it was, he actually came back to it, edited it, changed it to a certain degree, and republished it. And this is that republished edition. This is about a group of people that live in your carpet. Yes, you know, literally the carpet that that you walk over and take for granted every day. And it's about the empire that lives within this carpet. And Frey, which is blatantly, as far as I've always seen it, this disaster where there's a great pressure from above squashing the carpet down. That's blatantly somebody's foot. That's somebody literally walking across the room, and obviously to them it's called Frey, which is obviously a double meaning there. So this is a fun, easy book, very light on messages. I'm not doing an individual review of this one because it's so light, but it's a fun book, and I would recommend it if you're a Pratchett fan, because it's just Pratchett. You can still tell that whilst it's light, Pratchett still had a great time in writing this, and frankly he enjoyed writing that novel. Next up is Nation. Yes, Pratchett again. This one is one that I've never read before, and one that I didn't really know much about this book until fairly recently, when I started getting towards the end of the Discworld and wanting to finish off reading everything by Terry Pratchett. And I'm glad I read this one, because this has a different idea and a different theme to it. Basically, there's a small island nation which is hit by a tsunami. There's only one survivor on this island, which is a young boy, the boy on the cover. At the same time, not far off, a ship gets caught in that same storm that causes the tsunami, or the earthquake, you never told, and this ship runs aground. And it runs aground, and in spectacular fashion, on this same island. So you've got the one survivor, which is a young girl, with the one survivor of the island, which is your boy. They don't even speak the same language, they can't understand each other, they think each other is strange, and they try to avoid each other to start with. They have to try to survive somehow. They've got to try to learn to communicate, and other survivors from other nearby islands drift in, and they've got to create a nation, a new idea of a society, and one that works together well. And this is full of lots of meaning, ideas. I will do an individual review of this. I'm not going to say too much more now, but I would very heavily recommend this. This is an interesting one, it really is, and it's very different from Pratchett's usual style in many respects. And the last book that I read in June was called Omens, written by T. Pratchett, yes, and Neil Gaiman, co-written this time. So this is a book that is well known, especially in recent times, because they made a TV miniseries adaptation of it, starring David Tennant and Michael Sheen, which I really enjoyed. And indeed, they're making a sequel to it, which you're going to be curious, because obviously there is no sequel to the book, so where they'll go, but you're going to be very curious. Personally, whilst I love the series, I still like the book more. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I read the book first. It's got slightly more, the humour is, especially T. Pratchett, the humour is more evident. The TV series, I feel as though it's slightly more Neil Gaiman, which I'm not as keen on Gaiman, but I feel as though the book is slightly more T. Pratchett rather than Neil Gaiman, and for that I'm grateful. I mean, yeah, if it gets Neil Gaiman, but it's just my personal preference. Basically, this is a dark, humorous book. Basically, the Antichrist is born, and he uses lots of stereotypes, and upon the Antichrist's 11th birthday, Armageddon will happen, and it's the end of the world. Heaven and hell go to war, and humans lose out, and the earth loses out. And however, there is a mix-up with the Antichrist. He goes to the wrong family, and there's two demons, Azrael and Crowley, and yeah, it's a fun book with great characters. There will be a review of this coming up in the near future, so I won't say more now, but I would really recommend this. This is, it's not difficult, by the way, and it's just fun, fast-paced, humour. It breaks the fourth wall as well. Basically, it pretty much talks to the reader, describes them things in a very direct fashion, and it's got a strange humour about it. It's not quite T. Pratchett normal. Obviously, it's got influence by Neil Gaiman, so it's got an interesting mixture and one that I really liked overall. And with that said, that is it for all of the books that I read in June. So if you have read any of these, then please leave a comment and we can have a discussion about them. If you have any recommendations for me based on these books that you think I might enjoy, then again, please leave a comment and we're going to talk about it. Also, obviously if you want to know anything more about any of these books, then I'll try to answer as best as I'm able. All the links to these books can be found in the description box below. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.